Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. In this S&P 500 analysis, we'll look at the recent pullback from the S&P 500 to see if there will be a stock market center rally in 2020. We'll look at the stock market sentiment and its internal to see what they are telling us, and are they telling us a stock market center rally is coming soon. We will also analyze the S&P 500 price action to establish some probable price action scenario for the coming week. Finally, at the end of this video, I will show you two things the market is telling us what it is going to do. So stay tuned. Before I begin, I need you to smash that thumbs up button for me to help me promote this video and share this video on YouTube. And if you are new to this channel or you are not a subscriber, click on the subscribe button to subscribe. Thank you for your support. Let's look at what has transpired last week for the S&P 500. In this weekly chart of the S&P 500, we see the S&P 500 close above this long-term megaphone channel, and it closed with a loss for the week. It lost 35.74 points, or 0.97%. It had a range of 78.99 points. It made another all-time high last week. It remained above this long-term megaphone channel. The 10-week and the 40-week moving average are still trending up, and the S&P 500 closed above these two moving averages, and it is still one time framing up, thus the weekly trend remained to be up. Notice the weekly range is beginning to contract, and we are likely to see this to continue as we approach the holiday season. Before we analyze the S&P 500 in more detail and establish some probable price action scenario for next week, let's go take a look at the market sentiment and the internal to see what is the state of the market. In this sentiment chart, we see the VIX came up a bit for the week. It closed the week at 21.31, and it's still within this caution zone between 20 and 30. And the put-call ratio is still on the bullish end. It closed the week at 0.49, and it is still way below this hedge level of 0.75. The New York Stock Exchange up-down volume showing it has contracted. It's been fluctuating under the plus or minus 2 during the week, with Friday at minus 0.24, 2.4 times more down volume than up volume. The New York Stock Exchange daily advance decline also showing contraction. The highest reading for the week was 819 on Tuesday, 819 more advancing issue than declining issue. And on Friday, we saw a low of minus 536. 536 more decliners than advancers. The New York Stock Exchange new high continued to outnumber the new lows and holding near the 200 level and above. The New York Stock Exchange cumulative AD line pulled back a bit as the S&P 500 pulled back. Now let's take a look at the NASDAQ market internals. The NASDAQ up-down volume is also anemic. It hovered near the 2-to-1 ratio. The advance decline also did not show much strength. It's been in the range of plus or minus 1,000 throughout the week. The NASDAQ new high, new low also showing the new high continue to outnumber the new low, and it is expanding a bit. The high was on Monday with 431 more new highs than new lows. The NASDAQ cumulative AD line is holding up as the NASDAQ pulled back. So overall, the sentiment and the internal are not showing any sign of panic selling, and I will elaborate more about this in my summary section. Now let's go analyze the S&P 500 and the other major market indexes to see what they might do next week. Looking at the S&P 500 daily price chart here, we see that there was a hammer candle on Friday. Remember the scenario, one of the scenario that we talked about last week, was essentially for the S&P 500 to pull back and come down and retest this trend line here of this bull flag. Right? We're talking about this particular bull flag and get a little bit of a even breakdown and come down to this 3588 level and fill this gap, complete the filling of this gap before we get a bounce back up and take out this 3720 and move toward the 3800 level. And that was a scenario that we'll talk about last week. And right now, that is still a possibility. Then on the upside, it's basically just continuous move on this, pullback. Since it got a little bit of a hammer candle on Friday, it's basically just continue to move up, take out this 3720, and then come back and back test it a little bit on this high here, and then push toward the 3800 level. So that is the up-down scenario for the S&P 500 for next week. Now let's take a look at the other major market indexes, and starting off with the NASDAQ 100. On this daily price chart on the NASDAQ 100, we see that it broke out of this pivot high here and put in a new high last week, then it pulled back. Remember last week, one of the scenarios that we talked about was pulling back into this balance area or this balance area. And we be watching to see would it be able to find some support here at 12,204 and get a bounce back out. Or if it doesn't find support there, then we're essentially to look for a pullback to somewhere around 11,846 and then see would it get a bounce there. And it doesn't get a bounce off of these support area, then we'd be looking forward to work its way back down to the other end of this balance area near 10,677. Right now, the market internal doesn't seem to indicate that's what it's going to do, is to come all the way down to this end. Most likely, the probable scenario is that we might come down here at this 11,846 and then get a bounce back up and get back above this balance area. So for the downside, that's basically what we're going to keep an eye on to see would it be able to hold this 12,204. And if it doesn't, then we look for this continuation down to see would it be able to find support at 11,846. So those are the downside possibility. And then for the upside, we're essentially looking for this thing to continue to move out and break back above this 12,439 and take out this all-time high and put in another new all-time high, back test it, then work back toward the this 13,000 level. And looking at the Dow Jones Industrial, we see the Dow Jones Industrial still trending inside of this channel or this flag here. Remember we talked about this bull flag, and these are some of the major move level. The scenario that we talked about was essentially, break out of this flag and then work toward the 31,000 level. And then on the downside, essentially come down to the lower end of this flag and possibly come back and check this 29,199, essentially this pivot high here, and see would it be able to find support and then bounce back up for the 31,000 level. So right now, we're still monitoring the potential downside scenario coming back down to check this 29,199.35, then get a bounce back up and work toward the 31,000 level. Then on the upside, essentially just going to come up and break this flag and continue to move up to the 31,000 level, then eventually come in and put these major move level in play. And the Dow Jones Transportation made another new all-time closing high on Wednesday. And remember the scenario that we talked about last week was for the transportation to continue to move up toward the 13,000 level. And if it was going to pull back, then we're basically looking for it to pull back to somewhere around 12,379 to see would it be able to find support there. And if it doesn't, then we essentially look for this thing to continue to pull back to the 12,096 and fill this gap here. And then we see a bounce back up toward the 13,000 level. So the scenario remain pretty much the same. On the downside, we're still going to be looking for this 12,379 as the primary support. And if it could not hold support at this level, then we continue to look for it to test for support at 12,096 and fill this gap, then see a bounce back toward the 13,000 level. And for the upside, continue to move up, pick out the all-time high and put in new all-time high, work toward the 13,000 level. And finally, we see on this daily price chart here for the Russell 2000, see it put in a new all-time high last week and closed at a new all-time high. Also breaking out this price channel that I have drawn here And right now I'm going to move this upper trend line of this channel kind of to expand it a little bit. And remember the upside scenario that we've been watching is for it to continue to move up toward the channel and come up to this 2000 level. So if you could take a look at this, if it come up to this upper channel trend line, then that pretty much in the range of that 2000. So that will be the upside scenarios to continue to move up for this 2000 level. And then for the downside, essentially, remember the downside that we had last week was essentially coming back down and possibly retest this 1742, the all-time high that was put in back in 2018, or possibly get into this retracement zone. So right now, that doesn't seem too likely for the near term, but anything is possible. But more probable is probably at this level here, somewhere around the 1850 area. That's where I would look for potential support if it pulls back and see if it gets some support and then push it back up to the 2000 level. Right, so it's basically this 1854 area. So that is the indexes. Now here are the two things that the market is telling us. It is telling us that there will be a new high before this whole thing is over. And I'm not talking about, and it is not telling us that it's going to be a year from now. I put out a video back in July talking about how the Emini S&P 500 extended hour price action kind of give us a clue that the S&P 500 will make a new high. Let me show you. Here is the ES that have printed the extended hour all-time high and telling us that the S&P 500 will likely make a new all-time high. I will put a link for that July video in the description below, so you could go and check out the recent performance of this particular message that the market sent out. So here's the chart of the E-mini. This is the hourly, and I got the extended hour on there. So here's where it put in that new high back on December 8th, and the high is 3714.75. So we expect the S&P 500 and this E-mini S&P 500 futures will take out this level, this 3714.75 in the near future. And I believe that will likely to happen when we probably get some catalysts, such as the passing of the stimulus bill, or we're getting some positive news about the distribution of the vaccine and people getting vaccinated and so forth, to get some of these positive catalysts, and that will probably push this market back up and start that Santa rally into the Christmas holiday. And here's the other thing that the market is telling us, that the Dow Jones Industrial will make a new all-time high as well. And this is based on the Dow theory. Remember, I talked about the Dow theory numerous times on this video and in the past. Let me go back to the Dow Jones Transportation chart and show you what it is telling us. Remember, I talked about that just a minute ago. Back to this Dow Jones Transportation chart. Remember this all-time high, right? It made an all-time high on Wednesday, the Dow Jones Transportation. But if we go back to the Dow Jones Industrial, the Dow Jones Industrial did not put in an all-time high on Wednesday. Neither did it put in an all-time high on Thursday and Friday. The last time it put in an all-time high, close at an all-time high, was last Friday. That tells us that based on the Dow theory, that tells us that the Dow Jones Industrial will make another new closing high that will be above this closing high made on December the 4th, higher than 30,218.26. That's the reason why I believe that the recent pullback is setting up for a Santa rally into the holiday season. So in summary, we saw the sentiment is relatively in a cautious area, and the internal, although it is not expanding in strength, but it is holding up. And one of the positive things is the new high is still maintained above new low. So we are still seeing some internal strength in the market, and none of these internal have indicate there is going to be a massive correction or a huge pullback in the near term. So that's the reason why I see that any type of a catalyst, positive catalyst, either the stimulus bill or the positive news on the distribution of the vaccine, getting people vaccinated, and that sort of thing. I think that will be a positive catalyst that will trigger sand rally going into the holiday season. Have a happy holiday. Be sure to smash that thumbs up to help me promote and share this video on YouTube. Thank you for watching and stay safe.